Just getting our other devices set up here. Welcome everybody to Ask the Talk Doctor Live. We'll begin momentarily. All right, we are live. Hello and welcome. We are live once again, and it is Friday. Woo!
Hi,
We
everyone.
made it to another Friday. Hi, Star.
Hi.
Look who's joining us today.
Surprise.
Yes, and we are trying to embrace spring. Unfortunately, it's a little bit chilly where we are. Nevertheless, it is spring, and so we thought taking the show outdoors might give you some spring fever as well. But this is Ask the Talk Doctor Live. So whether you're joining us today from the East Coast, the West Coast, the Midwest, all across the world, we welcome you. We welcome you to this spectacular show. I'm your host, Dr. Dacia P. Hastings, a psychotherapist, speaker, consultant, and life coach. And my beautiful co host here, who also happens to be my daughter, Star Brianna, has joined us in the past. Yeah, why don't you tell our audience a little bit about you?
Hi, everyone. I'm Star Brianna. I am a creative director, digital marketing consultant, and entrepreneur. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited for you to be here today. Star usually helps us behind the background. She's more of a behind the scenes, set up the social media type person, content creator, as she said, but sometimes she likes to actually come in front of the camera as well and make certain that she shares her gift of knowledge with all of you. And today we have a very, very important topic. I'm really excited to talk about what we're going to share here today. But before we get into that, if you're joining us for the first time, regardless of where you're joining from, welcome. Ask the Talk Doctor Live. What is it exactly? Well, it's a show that offers a safe space for people to just take 30 to 45 minutes out of their day and just be in the moment, be in a space where you can relax and think and just feel, a little bit of relief from the stressors that we have from day to day in life. And we also offer a safe platform where you can ask your questions and gain support. This is really what is important about this show. We also integrate power talks so that you can get inspired, motivated, to take you through the day. And, again, you can pre-send your questions to askthetalkdoctorlive@gmail.com. Or perhaps you're someone who likes to use the chat, and we always encourage that. If you're on Instagram, use the comment box. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and place questions that you might want answered in the comment box there, or the chat box.
We are a little bit far away, so we can see them coming in, but I might have to be getting up to read it. And I think that we actually do have a comment, so let's see what our
so
person says.
that's one of those things that we want to make sure that we are addressing your needs, because after all, that's why we're here. Somebody said hi.
They said hi. This is Diana. Hi, Diana.
Hi back. Thank you for being here. We so appreciate it. So as we said today, we are episode 17. And if you haven't checked out any of the other podcasts that are all available for you on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to our channel so you can get those notifications. But we have so many other episodes there available to you with really great content. So we really want you to utilize that as a resource. You, your friends, your loved ones, tell whoever you can tell about Ask the Talk Doctor Live, because we are here to help. So that being said, guess what the topic and theme is today? The masters of your life. Specifically, the question of the day is, what things are you making the masters of your life? You didn't know that, did you? Or maybe some of you did know that at times we make certain things in our lives the masters of our lives. And if you really think about what a master is, you serve those things. frankly, when you make them the masters of your life. And we thought that this was just such an important and fitting topic that as we move into a new season, it really is time for us to really take inventory of our lives, to really see what is happening in our lives, what's keeping us bogged down, what's keeping us in a state of stress. And a lot of times we don't always take a look at the things that we are giving most of our times to. And that's what becomes the master of your life. Wherever you spend your time, wherever, whatever you give your time to, that is essentially the master of your life. And for some of you, there are things that you might be spending a lot of time on and you're not even realizing it. What are some of those things you think that we tend to make masters of our lives?
That we as a people, as a society, tend to make masters of our lives.
Yeah.
Our phones.
Social media.
Yeah.
That might be one of the top things that I think, all across the world, people can really relate. Social media. And how on an average, as a social media marketing person, on an average, the average person, how much time do you think that they spend on social media? All of them, for that matter.
In a 24-hour day, if I had to just take a guess, and of course there are statistics out there all over the
Yes.
place, but I'm not 100% sure of them. So if I just had to take a guess,
yeah. To me, it would be a good 10, 15
Okay.
hours a day.
I was about to say onwards of 16, 17.
Yes.
So about 15.
Oh my goodness,
10 to 15
yes.
is a good, 10 to 15
Right,
is a good one.
right. And studies show
Yeah.
that we spend at least 30% of our lives
Mhm.
at work. But a lot of times today, because social media is so popular and a lot of people find that their downtime just kind of scrolling through, within that 30% of time, within an 8-hour workday, we can easily spend at least half of that. And, if your bosses or managers or whoever is watching, take note that sometimes people are actually scrolling through their phones or looking on Facebook or YouTube or whatever the case may be. But nevertheless, masters of our lives. It consumes our time. Some of the other things that we spend endless time on is playing mindless games. And what we clinicians call mindless games are those games on our phones or smart devices where sometimes we need some downtime and we find ourselves just hours on end escaping in these games that become mindless because you really don't have to spend a lot of time really figuring things out. Once you've kind of mastered the game, you can kind of get lost
What was
in
that
it.
game? Angry Birds. Then there was Temple Run.
And Candy Crush.
Candy Crush. I was trying to think of that name.
I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of these things, and not necessarily to, give credence to any one game over the other. The idea here is the time that we're spending just being mindless, because really the opposite of being mindful is really mindless. So if you're not really paying attention to what's going on around you and just focusing in on what you're doing on that game, it really becomes a mindless activity. We also get preoccupied with toxic people. We get preoccupied with other things in our lives. Work, for example. Some of you may be workaholics, and that's where you're spending a lot of your time. That's what's really consuming the time and attention that you have. And what happens when we do that? What happens when we make things and people the masters of our lives?
We lose sight of ourselves and what we need because we're giving it to someone else and something else.
Yes.
And
Yes.
we're just over here, shriveling up and don't even, sometimes we realize that we always know, but
Yes.
it's just happening.
Yes.
And we're thinking that we're helping it, but we're really not.
We're really not. And I like that you said that we lose sight of ourselves, because when we lose sight of ourselves, what essentially becomes the issue here is that you're not self-aware. You don't recognize when there is a need within you that you're not fulfilling. And so as a matter of fact, you don't know when mentally you might be in distress, or you don't know when you are really going on a steady decline because you're not paying attention. You're spending time just, it's kind of like the Energizer Bunny. You keep going, you keep going, you keep going, and you kind of look up and you realize, gosh, I'm exhausted, or gosh, I have a headache, or I feel tense. All of those things tend to happen when we allow other things and people to master our time and to become the masters of our life. Does this resonate with any of you? Give a thumbs up in the chat, or a comment or something, to let us know that you really see this to be an issue in your life as well. And if you see yourself falling into any of these categories, let me ask you this. When has any of these things that have become masters of your life guaranteed you peace and eternal joy? Like, if something is mastering my time, I want a return on my investment. I want some sort of return. And if you are not experiencing that return that is in the positive sense, that can help to promote you forward or propel you to the next level, then frankly, I think that, it really doesn't make sense to really be spending your time in that way. And, our mind space has become that thing has taken up our mind space, so it has essentially become our master, and amassed to that master, you are its slave. Just think about that for a moment. You're a slave to the social media. You're a slave to the endless hours that you're spending at work. You're a slave to that person who you continue to let, filter toxins in your life. And the list goes on. Maybe it's burying yourself in something like substances, or even, sex for that matter. Some people use that as a way to sort of help them with their emotions. Either way, the thing that's taking up your mind space and occupying your time, you become a slave to it. What do you think of that?
I agree with that.
Yeah, yeah. So essentially, you may be wondering to yourself, well, that's true about me, but what do I do about it? What are some of the things that I can change? Now, if you're somebody who your life is perfect, that's fine. This is not for you. But if you, if you find that you can own this, and that this is essentially happening in your life, we have a few tips for you. We have a few tips to share. What are some of the things that they can begin to do that really helps to give them a chance to not, become a slave to the thing that they've been feeling like they're a slave to? What can they begin to do to begin to, peel back some of that in their lives?
I'd say look for natural remedies, and why I say that, like, you can become a slave to anything, but natural is like, it's somewhat like built inside of you, like just stepping out into nature. Like I just said, you can become a slave to it, but how could you if this is the place where where you live, where you're made of, you can just
step out into nature.
Outside into nature. Or,
so giving yourself an opportunity to put space between that thing and, what you are giving your time to. And remember how I said the return on your investment? Nature is a great way, because it can't give you anything negative.
Exactly.
It's only going to revive and rejuvenate you. So if you find that maybe you have been at your computer for 4 or 5 hours and you're starting to feel really tense, you're really irritable, you're yelling at everybody, it might be time to put some space between what you're doing and allow yourself an opportunity to decompress in that moment.
Get some sun. Even if it's raining outside, just let yourself be free and jump in the rain, like become a child again. You'll see how it just makes you laugh.
That sounds so exhilarating. Just thinking about just letting the rain just kind of wash away all of the stress that you're experiencing.
Exactly.
But I think one of the first things, even before we implement, the various things that could help us, is that we really need to take inventory of our lives and what we're doing, because sometimes we just don't know. And taking inventory might mean stopping and thinking about all the things that you are doing in a 24-hour day. And you can really pinpoint, what is that one thing that takes up most of my time?
That's a good a good challenge and something that I actually started doing like a few years back. Literally, if record at and every hour like what you did.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that you can see, because sometimes you really need to see it on paper.
Right.
Like even though you know you're doing it, you need to actually
You
look
need to
back
look
at
at
the
it.
end of the
Yeah.
day and see what you're
Right,
doing.
right. And this is a real great technique if you're looking for balance in your life,
Mhm.
that taking inventory of your day really helps you to see where your time is being invested.
Mhm.
And once you begin to do that, it sort of gives you this aha moment, like I could take back an hour of my time if only I spent less time maybe watching ratchet TV,
Mhm.
or spent less time scrolling through people's social media pages,
Mhm.
or spent less time just in a mindless space. So, take an inventory of your life will be one of the first steps in helping you to recognize what you need to do differently. And then the other thing you want to do after identifying those things, like you said, maybe putting pen and paper, or if not, you're not a pen and paper person. Oops. Sorry, guys. Uh, we've got the wind here, and it's like really blowing everything around. Sorry, those of you on YouTube. You know, being outside is great, but we've got the wind to contend with. I think they're still there.
Yeah.
So sorry about that. We just had like a gush of wind, and it just kind of took one of the devices here. But, you know, as we were saying, in terms of taking that inventory and really looking at where you're spending your time, whether you do it on with pen or paper, or whether you do it in some sort of smart device, you want to also then make sure that you don't just take this inventory, but what am I going to now do with the information? So it really needs to say, if I'm spending a lot of time, you know, on something other than self development, then maybe I can take 15 minutes out of the day that I give myself back to exercise. I can take another 20 minutes out of the day that I might have spent on social media on my own self or professional development, or working on a way to have better balance in my life, or thinking about the types of meals that I need to eat so that from a nutritional perspective, I'm thinking about my health more. And there are endless things you can do with the time that you give yourself back. But first, you have to take inventory. You have to really look at things. Otherwise, you will get the same results every time if you're not doing something differently. So, I'm interested in hearing, when you actually did that inventory challenge for yourself, what did it tell you? What did it teach you? And how are you doing things differently now?
Yeah. So that's all about consistency. My honest answer is that I didn't try it for long enough. And I think that with everything, you have to give things, a
Some
period
time.
of time to really see how it's working for you. But it's something that I know can work
Yes.
and can help,
Yes.
because seeing it on paper and you're like, oh, wow, I spent 5 hours doing this.
Yes.
And that's the thing that's really like killing me. Like you said, try to like replace it with something else that will just, fill you up
Fill
a
you
lot
up.
more.
That's right.
Yeah.
And thank you for being honest about that, because I like how she inserted consistency.
Yeah.
It's the one thing that I tell people all the time. You have to be committed, and you also have to be consistent. Nothing worth having comes easy. You have to invest the time and attention in it. Where your time is being invested, that's what you're going to see as when you reap the dividends or you reap the benefits. You can't see good investment, or a good return on your investment, if you're not putting in anything good. What you put in is what you're going to get out of it. And I love that so much, that yes, we need to be consistent and we need to have commitment. And, you know, the thing that I like most about these tips that we're offering is that sometimes we think we always have to be doing something, but doing nothing sometimes is doing something.
Yeah.
You know, this idea of stillness scares a lot of people.
Yeah.
But let me tell you what stillness does for you. Stillness allows you the space, the mental space that we fill up with so much negative stuff. It gives you back that space, and it allows you to really be and realize that I can manage my thoughts. You know, I can achieve calm. I can achieve a space where I'm just sitting and listening
Mhm.
to that inner voice within me that really wants me to be better, that
And it
wants me to be well.
and it gives you back that control that you're looking for, because often we're looking for a control of a certain situation, and that's why we like, give our all to something else that's not
Yes.
necessarily good for us. But stillness really gives you that back. You
Yes.
feel more empowered, like you can do
Absolutely.
anything in the world
Yes.
just by doing nothing.
Nothing.
You
Well
know?
said. And if you're looking for a way to restructure your brain, one of those things that we don't always realize how malleable our brain is. I hear people tell me all the time, well, I've been thinking this way for a long time, or these patterns of behavior have been in my life. It's hard to change that. And that's not true at all.
Mhm.
Our brains are so malleable that when we give our attention to really allowing us to tap into our brain power through stillness, through mindfulness, it allows us the opportunity to recognize how we can retrain our brain and
Mhm.
retrain our thinking. Just what you were saying, because you're absolutely right. It's going to give you that positive power, that energy that you so need,
Mhm.
that control that you might be looking for in terms of what you feel, what thoughts filter into your mind.
Mhm.
You're giving yourself that by doing some stillness. And start off, if you've never done it before, start off small. Start with 5 minutes a day, work your way up to 10 to 15, just being still. I like being still out in nature. When I'm outside and I'm being still and I'm listening, I can actually hear the birds, I can hear the wind, I can hear the trees rustling. And what an exciting feeling that is to be able to do that,
Yeah.
you know? But you can be still anywhere. And then, always seeking professional help. Here we go again.
Keep losing
Sorry, we
YouTube.
keep losing our YouTube participants. We are so sorry, YouTube. That's the drawback for the win here. Sorry, guys. We need to enter our device a little better. I think we lost. Did we lose our connection? All right, here it is back. Got poor connection going out. Nature is a great place to be, but with that technology, it might be a little bit difficult. So thank you guys for hanging in there with us.
They are.
Jesse
Jesse said you mentioned win, so that's what we.
You guys are such awesome troopers for hanging in there with us. Do we have any comments that we want to acknowledge? Some people have been putting some stuff in YouTube, and I want to make sure that we're giving attention to what you guys are saying. Thank you so much for sharing your comments. I think I saw some coming into the YouTube chat there. So, for me, the wind is awesome and I like to feel it on my face, but I think not so good for devices.
So Laura says Instagram has a time reminder that we can set when we've been on for too long. So that's excellent.
Yeah.
It can remind us to just take a pause
It's true.
from scrolling.
It's true.
She also says that she had a problem always running around instead of holding still, like all of us do.
All of us do.
Yeah.
But I think that when we're intentional, thank you for that
Mhm.
comment, Laura. But I think that when we're all intentional and we're all following these tips that we just shared, we can control the things that we are doing much better. And we can allow ourselves to say, okay, 10 minutes, that's it. That's enough of this.
Mhm.
On to the next thing, or onto something that can really fill me up and give me, a sense of feeling empowered and rejuvenated and revived,
Mhm.
instead of draining me and taking away from my precious time here.
Mhm.
So this is Ask the Talk Doctor Live, and
Mhm.
this is the moment in time where we spend time answering your questions.
Mhm.
We want to be helpful to you. And so this is a time where you can go ahead and place your questions in the comment or chat box, and we will address them. But there are some people who have graciously sent in questions ahead of time. So we'll take some of those while you, our live audience, may be thinking of things that you want us to answer for you today. So would you like to read the first one for us, Star Brianna?
Sure. So, how can I be a phenomenal woman when my world is breaking apart?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. So here's a person asking about their idea of themselves is that they regard themselves as a phenomenal woman, which I think is terrific. I think that we should all think of ourselves in that regard. But this person is now questioning the value that they've placed on their lives in terms of being a phenomenal woman, and has now taken it to the sense that the outside world is falling apart, or maybe it could be her internal world. Her internal world might be falling apart, so she doesn't feel as phenomenal anymore.
Or she does, because she said that she's a phenomenal woman. But go ahead. But she's,
Yeah, but where were you going to take this? I want to hear your take on it.
I don't even know. I guess I was just feeling how she feels. She
Yeah.
still acknowledges herself as a phenomenal woman, so she still knows that she's phenomenal. She doesn't feel any less than, but she knows that she can be doing more and be more of herself and show up as more of herself, but she feels so broken inside. So the key is that, like, she's never losing sight of herself, but she wants to show up, and like when she goes out in public, when she walks into a room or whatever it is that she's doing with her life, she wants to show up. She wants to feel like she's showing up as this person.
Yeah.
But she's leaving the building and going back into her car like, I know I could have been or done so much more, and I just feel like crushed inside. So
Yeah.
I
That's
don't
an
know.
interesting perspective that you take on it, because I didn't look at it that way, but I'm glad, this is why it's important for us to bounce this off on each other, because Star Brianna's view of this is that this person still sees themselves as phenomenal, but they question that sometimes because of the internal things that might be going on with them. I think that we can look at this from two different perspectives. I want to say to this person who wrote this question in that you are still phenomenal, regardless of what might be going on internally or externally, for that matter. A lot of people feel like their world is falling apart because they're looking at the stressors and the crisis around them, and they internalize that as, this is happening to me. Whenever these things occur, oftentimes that's how we as human beings view it. That's the perception we have. That's the perspective that we take. Why is this happening to me? But I will tell you, you have to ground yourself in the thought and in the idea that if you deem yourself phenomenal, that's who you are. You just need to get some anchors that will help you to continue to maintain that, and recognize that uncertainty will come, stressors will come, trauma will make you question who you are and what you can become. But you've got to anchor yourself in the spirit that I am made wonderfully. I am this person. I am not my circumstance, and I am not my situation. Because sometimes it can threaten to take hold of you and allow you to sit in that pain. And if that's what you choose to do, there you will stay. But as a phenomenal woman, and if that's what you regard yourself to do, barring from the fact that we should never put that kind of pressure on ourselves. What does being phenomenal mean to you in this time, in this space, in this moment? Because my definition of phenomenal, you can't measure yourself up against me or Star Brianna or anybody else for that matter. Your phenomenally or phenomenal self is who you are right now in this time and space. And if you start there, you can only continue to rise forward as you continue to heal, as you continue to grow, as you continue to find anchors that are healthy and that will allow you to continue to grow. And that's why it's so important that, as we said before, to take inventory of your life. On an ongoing basis, you got to ask yourself, what more do I need? What can I do differently? How can I grow through these things that I'm going through so that I can take myself to the next level? It's just not going to let up. Three times a charm. I'm hoping that it doesn't happen again, people on YouTube.
Sorry.
Here we go with the wind again. It's a good thing the device is anchored in its strength. I'm so glad it doesn't break out here in here. But yeah, for that person who wrote that in, thank you for that question. That question is awesome. It's a great one, but I want you to really recognize that you are phenomenal in your own right. You are phenomenal no matter what you do and where you are. The idea here is that as you begin to continue to take inventory in your life, ask yourself the questions in terms of, what do I need to do differently to grow? What things I need to anchor myself in that are positive that will help me to become a better person, or the person that my best self, I should say. Because you can get caught up in measuring yourself against other people. That's not your yardstick. That's not your ruler. You can't measure yourself by other things and other people. Measure yourself by where you are and start there. Yeah. What do you think?
I agree.
Yeah.
For sure.
So, any comments from you guys, our live audience? Any questions that you might have? What do you think of that response that we gave? I'm going to go ahead and take another question because I didn't see any questions posed yet. Did you see any that came through while I was talking?
Yes.
Um,
Levon is saying hi. Hi, Levon. And then Jesse is saying it's important to be intentional. Yes, it is.
Thank you, Jesse. That's absolutely right.
And let's check YouTube.
Yeah.
Um,
Any questions there?
Not yet.
Okay. All right. So you have the opportunity to place your questions, your comments for support. We do have another one that I want to, I think it's going to go again. This wind feels so good, but it's really blowing everything around out here. Um, so this one I want to share with you guys, as somebody else wrote in. This person said, the reality of returning to the workplace is here. I recently was told I had to report back to work in June. This is her work site she's talking about. I've come to enjoy my freedom to work from anywhere. And in fact, I'm more productive at home. I'm angry and I don't want to go back to work. I think we should have more options. What should I do? So I'm guessing that many of you can resonate with that, particularly those of you who have tasted the sweetness of work from anywhere thanks to the pandemic. And it's interesting. Sometimes we don't know what we don't know until we experience it. And a lot of people didn't know that they would enjoy work from home or work from anywhere. And now that we're moving into, the idea that the world has opened back up and things are getting back to some sense of normalcy, a lot of employers, if not yours, have already asked people to come back to the office or workplace. And many people are resisting that, and they're resisting it for various reasons. Well, this particular person recognizes that she thrived working from anywhere or working from home. And she's asking, what should I do? Like, I don't want to go back. So what is your take on that? What's your thought?
I would tell her to, since she thrived, working from anywhere, keep on that path. If she's able to, if she has the resources and she's able to keep on that path, she doesn't necessarily need to go back to this job. Don't go back then. Do what's going to make you, feel good. And, if, like I said, if you have the resources and you're able to not, and you can still live your life working from anywhere, you have, another plan or whatever it is, keep on working from anywhere. If you don't want to do it, you don't have to.
So I'm going to be devil's advocate here. Because you always give the wonderful young free millennial perspective, and I love it so much. But there are people who also the idea of just saying, I'm not coming back. I'm going to maintain my freedom. But then there's this, I've got a mortgage.
But that's why I said, if you have the resources, if you're able to, if you have other options,
word I'm going to start with, options. So the thing about life is, at times we get into the mentality that we don't have options, and that's where we get stuck. So regardless of this person's circumstances, let's say she does have a mortgage, she does have a family that she has to take care of, and she doesn't have the, luxury of saying, I'm not coming back. You have options, because just like you recognize that you are thriving in a away from the office environment, I'm pretty sure your employer saw that over the last 2 years, that, hey, this employee was doing really well, since they were gone. And the thing that we have to recognize here is sometimes our thinking holds us back. And we can't allow ourselves to get so anchored in a rigid thinking that we feel like we're stuck. So when we talk about options, this person really needs to identify what their options are. And an option could be having a conversation with her supervisor, manager, or employer and really negotiating her needs.
Mhm.
Because if she is as valuable as I would like to think that she is, there's value in having the conversation. But those of you who are supervisors and managers, listen up, because we are moving into a different era of work.
Mhm.
And that work, the way it looked like traditionally years ago, has changed tremendously. The pandemic has forced many other people into the space of now thinking about it differently, whereas before they weren't, because they recognized in an emergency, we had to make it work. And so I would say for this person who is really feeling these strong emotions about not going back, she's got to sit down and really weigh her options. And I'm going to throw another word in here. Besides option, there's value.
Yeah.
How much do you value your freedom?
Mhm.
How much do you value the dollar?
Mhm.
You've got to place value where value needs to be for you, not for anybody else.
Mhm.
And when you begin to identify what your values are, your decision is going to become much easier. Because for you right now, the money might be of value. And so if the money is of value, then you've got to start from there and have open conversations about how can I make this work, knowing that I need the money, so I may need to go back. And for you, if it's not the money, because I've certainly known people who have said, you know what, life is short, my value is in my freedom.
Mhm.
I don't care if I have to live on 10 cents.
Mhm.
I'm good.
Seriously.
But that might not be you.
Yeah.
So I think that it's really, again, as we're talking about taking inventory of your life and seeing where you place your value in terms of what this might look like for you. Who knows? Communication is so important and we don't often use it in the way that we can and we should, that when you open up and talk about your needs, sometimes people actually hear you and they work out something for you. Who knows? You might even get the benefit of, once you go back, reevaluate the circumstance, and they might say to you, hey, you don't have to be in the office.
Mhm.
You never know. But you just have to really think from an options perspective and not allow yourself to be so rigid, because it's really going to hold you back.
Mhm.
And a lot of times our negative emotions can keep us stuck in that space as well.
Agree.
Yeah, indeed. All right. So we don't see any questions or comments coming into the chat.
I think we had something.
I think, oh, we did? Okay.
Mhm.
I'd like to address it.
What are the most important? Oh, this is back to our phenomenal woman question. What are the most important traits of a phenomenal woman?
That's a good question. I think that, as I had stated before,
Mhm.
you should definitely measure your phenomenal self by who you know that you are inside. And if you don't know yourself inside, this is time for you to spend some time with yourself and really recognizing. So, one thing I would say off the top, a phenomenal woman recognizes her gifts.
Mhm.
A phenomenal man, for that matter, too, because I don't want the guys who are listening to
Mhm.
think that they are not phenomenal as well.
Mhm.
But she or he recognizes their gifts and they operate within those gifts. They're not afraid to share their gifts. They're not afraid to become grounded in the purpose of their life.
Mhm.
And if you really want to show how phenomenal you are, find your gifts and operate within them. Allow your gifts to shine. Share them in every way you possibly can. And I think when you ground yourself in sharing your gifts, you're going to realize how much substance there is to your life. You're not going to realize your substance unless you realize the inner things that's been given to you. That's where you start first. And then from there, some other characteristics could be compassion, caring, care about others, give to yourself so that you can better give to others. A phenomenal person always recognizes that they got to take care of themselves, because the whole purpose of being here is to fulfill the purpose of building healthy, strong relationships, furthering this world to be a better place by sharing the gifts and the talents that they have.
I think that's a great answer.
Yeah. And that's really the thing that I can tell you. So you got to start with you. You got to look inside yourself and see what those gifts are that you've been given. And if you don't know how to find your gifts, I always tell people, to look at what you're really good at.
Mm-hmm.
The things that you are really, really good at, those are your gifts.
Mm-hmm.
Nurture them and let them blossom and grow.
Yeah.
So, we've spent a lot of time talking, and I didn't even realize we have elapsed 30 minutes. We're into the 45-minute hour, and I know that this is supposed to be a 30-minute show, but I'm so glad that you guys just kind of held on despite the wind, despite all of the things that's been happening. Thank you for your questions and your comments that you've placed. I'm going to go ahead and do the wrap up of this. What are the masters of your life? And for me, I've got to really share some a personal space for me, and a place that I feel that I am in, and how I'm able to sort of anchor myself. The scripture that I like most, that really resonates with this particular topic today, is Matthew 6:24, and it says, no one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other,
Mm-hmm.
or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money. And for me, that's a great anchor.
Mm-hmm.
I need to really look at what I'm investing my time in, because what I'm investing my time in, essentially, that's what I'm going to become a slave to.
Yeah.
So I need to look at what I am doing in terms of who or what am I serving.
Mm-hmm.
Friends, I don't know about you, but when I decided to let God be the master of my life, it changed my whole perspective. It gave me a more sure and secure anchor where I rest my hopes and my dreams. You see, allowing people and things and possessions and money and your job and even your anxiety to be ruler of your life will disappoint you every time. Psalm 27, 20, verse 7 reads, some trust in chariots, some trust in horses, but we who trust in the name of the Lord our God, that's where our anchor should be. So these things create an elusive sense of security, robbing you of time, energy, and sadly, your peace. But when you change your mindset and free yourself from the very thing that only takes from you and doesn't give you the kind of peace that this world could never give you, nor the kind of freedom or rest that it can't take away, you emerge more graceful, resilient than you ever imagined before. Now, how's that for a big return on your investment? I hope you enjoyed this broadcast today as much as I did. I loved your interaction. I'm so glad you stuck in with us despite the wind. I'd like to encourage you to tell a friend, like and subscribe, follow us on Instagram, follow us on YouTube, subscribe to our channel, because that's going to not only help you, it's going to help the whole world be able to hear these inspirational and motivational messages that we're trying to put out here. And again, we are so grateful for you gifting yourself this time and always allowing us into your space. And again, share this with other people. Let us know what you think. And we will see you next time on Ask the Talk Doctor Live. Thank you for hanging in there with us. We love you.
Thank
See you
you,
next
guys.
time. Bye
Bye.
bye.